Hey y'all, it's Laura, your Profesh Musish, and I'm here today to basically talk about viola and violin. And I won't go into how I started or when I switched because I play both. But I'll explain that in another video, so you should like and subscribe so that you can see that video when I make it. But for today, I want to explain the differences between violin and viola, some common misconceptions about them. The two different instruments are very different but also similar, so basically I want to explain some of those things to you today. This is a violin, and most people know what this is. It's a very common instrument, but compared to viola, this is a viola, most people don't know what that is. So my most common question that I get asked is, how is a viola different from a violin? And there are three main differences. Of course, there are a lot of differences, but the three most big differences that I can explain are size. So if you notice, my viola is a lot bigger than my violin by several inches. I think violins are typically 14 or so inches full size, and I believe my viola is over 16 inches, in fact 16 and a half or so, and violas can be as big as 17 or even bigger inches. So that's one main difference. The reason why the viola is bigger is to accommodate the fact that it has different strings, and that's my second biggest difference, is that violins and violas have different strings. Each of them have 4 strings, but they're different, and basically the bottom 3 strings of the violin are the same as the top 3 strings of the viola. So here's how to explain it. From bottom to top of the violin, we go G, D, A, and E. But the viola doesn't have the E string, so we substitute by putting a lower string. So my lower string on the viola is C, followed by G, D, and then A. So that's my second difference. And to give you a context, the viola strings are the same 4 strings that the cello has, but the violas are an octave higher than the cello strings. So second difference. My third difference that I explain to people are that the clefs that I use to play violin and viola are actually different. So my violin clef is called treble clef, and if you play piano, you know that the treble clef is for high notes that you would play with your right hand. If you play cello, the bass clef is for your left hand, or for cello, or for bass, or for any other lower instrument. But the viola doesn't play low enough typically to play in bass clef all the time. So I rarely ever play in bass clef. I know how to if I have to play with a, let's say, a piano score. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So basically, viola clef is called alto clef, and it's basically in between bass clef and treble clef. So I do use treble clef and alto clef when I play viola. The reason being is because sometimes I play up higher than what alto clef covers, and you can switch to treble clef. To give you a context, alto clef looks exactly the same as treble clef, has 5 lines, just has a different symbol for what the clef is, and the middle line is middle C. So those are 3 main differences between violin and viola. And the next question I get asked a lot is, well, they're basically the same instrument. One is just bigger and one is smaller, so they're easy to switch between. And basically, if you've had lessons and training on both, you can switch easily between them both. But they're not as similar as you would think. And the way that I explain that is that the more beginner you are, the more beginner level of playing that you're at, the simpler it is, the easier it is to play both. The similarities are many and they're close together. But the more advanced you become, the differences between them become more advanced, and you get farther and farther apart as far as how you play them, right? So it's kind of like playing the game of cricket and playing the game of baseball. They're similar in some instances, but I'm sure that professional players in each of those sports would say they're nothing alike, and that's because they're the best in the world. So that's just to give you a context of professional players of violin and viola would tell you that they're played very differently, and that's because it's correct. But maybe if it's a beginner student trying out a violin and then switching to viola, they're basically played the same way, and that's because their level is so beginner, and that's okay. But basically, that's my context for the differences of violin and viola, and what they are, and what my commonly asked questions are, and what I give answers to. So I hope that helps you understand, and follow me for later videos to explain how I started, when I switched, why I did that, and I'll keep you updated. All right, thanks guys, see ya.